To document again the demon possessed, which pose a public safety concern, and these are the sort of tactics that a corrupt government engages in. And remember, third parties are the government. This is the state that's engaged in group stalking you through the people. So third parties such as Spectrum, engaging in what is controlling the Wi-Fi, as I capture, again, very, very heavy hitting documentation. The entity engages in what is documentation of what is harassment as an entity. Spectrum has my money. I pay my bills. They are engaged in what is ongoing, a pattern of interruption of my internet service, because of the criminal purpose of obstructing the ability to rapidly upload that evidence that it's monitoring as well. This is Title 18 criminal activity that Spectrum, a third party, is engaging in. And as you saw in the still images, while the light source is hovering over me, the sex offense that Spectrum is engaged in while I'm inside of my private space, and they are captured in relevant position, that is criminal presence, and engaging in the sex offense while they are also documented group stalkers, but they were documented well before I came to Los Angeles. This is also the pattern of harassment that's already been exposed by the entity that's engaging in the sex offense and criminal monitoring. And this is also a show of hostility by demons who are inherently defeated. And this is the type of behavior that's serving to what is harass American citizens, threaten your safety, and obstruct justice. This is the inability to access Wi-Fi. Again, television working fine while that demon universal waste arrives. I capture video. I go through all that analysis. Internet does not work. Not touching my equipment. My equipment is in impeccable condition. There was no failure either when I documented the criminal monitoring conduct by Spectrum, who's creating audible activity while the engineered light surrounds me, and I called them while they had no explanation, which again, the entity doesn't, they can come up with an explanation. It's criminal monitoring. The entity is not suffering any malfunctions. You're looking at all of the methods employed for engaging in obstruction of justice. And because I am uploading, publishing evidence on the internet, the ongoing criminal objective is to slow that down, to stop that. You cannot stop that. But the purpose of trying to stop that is criminal. And I'm also going to prosecute for that. So it's to inform the federal government, it's to inform the public of what is the focus and what's the behavior, what's the pattern that's exhibited when you are going to publicly expose and prosecute the government in this way. Spectrum represents the state who's engaged in invasion of privacy, corporate invasion of privacy, using the internet access. This is a communication device, in other words, because it's internet connected. Using this communication device as a means of monitoring me inside of my apartment, and now using it as a means of obstructing justice. You have now internet failure. This is the same thing the entity is doing on the video of the internet, trying to stop the ability to create Google drives where I'm uploading and publishing the evidence. And then you have at the same time the entity that's physically assaulting you and attacking you while you are documenting. That's an act, a violent act of obstruction of justice. You have the entity that's engaging in an all-right sex offense, engaging in group stalking in plain sight. That's what you saw while the entity was flying in circles yesterday, and doing so with impunity and monitoring in plain sight. You're not delivering a package. You're not walking to nobody's apartment. You're engaged in monitoring in plain sight. And there are a bunch of hostile demons that were doing it while LAPD was flying in a circle repeatedly, while the light source is hovering directly above my head in my apartment, while the entity is maintaining engineered light. And that was a show of hostility by a demon-possessed population who is angry. And this is mental illness at its heights, understand, because you were looking at a population of highly passive-aggressive psychopaths. They're targeting somebody else, looking to the left and the right while they're doing it. All right. This is the entity that's engaging in internet interference, and Spectrum is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted for that. Not only are they sex offenders, but they're also engaged in federal stalking. Okay. They're engaged in also in the workplace. They're engaged in federal stalking, having personal private information because they're monitoring. The specific environment is in my office, surrounding my office. Spectrum is engaging in that sex offense, and also in workplace terrorism, harassment, and sexual violence as an entity engaged in federal stalking, which occurs also in the workplace because they are also having and possessing necessarily while they're acting in concert with the entity, which is already established, that they have the private information, the personal identifying information, which federal HUD housing laws prohibit. And you are inherently engaged in that when you're engaged in the system of surveillance, which is what I'm showing. So I just want you to see, I'm going to still upload my evidence, but this is what you're looking at. No internet. And it immediately goes off after I capture that video documentation. I take it as a compliment. Satan is both obsessed and fearful, but I want to be clear, this is psychopaths. So you have psychopaths that are obsessed with you, but they also despise you. They want to literally take your life. Okay, they want to harm you and torment you in the most passive aggressive manners that they can fathom. But I've shown you how you can pierce through all of that. You're actually witnessing the psychopath while they look the opposite direction, and everything about their behavior and the environment is showing you the demon that they are and the criminal activity that they are engaging in, as I'm literally pointing out everything that they're doing and the significance of what they're doing and even why they're doing it that way. And that's revealing the mental illness of this population. This is criminal obstruction of justice. It's also federal stalking violation of Title 18 for purposes with the criminal intent to keep one under surveillance, obstruction of justice, and the real-time operation of the inability to access internet, and doing so while I am documenting. So in other words, understand the presence of the engineered light is speaking to what is the intentional conduct of everything that's happening. There are no malfunctions. This is ongoing surveillance, and Spectrum is going to be prosecuted, and Spectrum is going to be a published group stalker going on the list to be maintained by the Department of Justice. Spectrum was documented as engaging in assault and battery as an entity engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. All of those facts apply, and this is nothing other than an additional tactic. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's currently 5:33 a.m.